Are you debating going to music school? Do you wonder about the workload and what classes to expect? What are auditions like? Is going to music school worth the investment? What are the juicy ins and outs that no one talks about? These are just some of the questions that I had when I was in high school and debating whether or not to go to music school. So my name's Carlos, I'm a composer and I just graduated from music school with a composition degree, and I'd like to share my experience these past 4 years. And if you're debating whether or not to go into school for whatever major, I hope that these insights will be helpful as I kind of go through my experiences year by year, and hopefully give you a better picture of what it's like, because there are a lot of questions around what music school is like, and I don't want to filter any of those out for you. I want to give you the cold hard facts about it, so I hope you enjoy. There are timestamps down below if you want to skip to any certain section that I'm going to talk about, but it's most helpful that you watch the whole way through to kind of get a holistic picture. And this is geared towards music composition majors because that's what my emphasis was in, but even if you're not, if you're performance, music ed, or music business, then I think any of these insights and experiences that I had will kind of give you a better idea of what it's like. So in high school, this is kind of where the whole story starts. I didn't really know what I wanted to do in college. I was always involved in music for most of my life, playing in the school band and playing piano self-taught here and there, but I never thought of it as a viable career option. Not even being a composer, I didn't really have that kind of experience growing up. So what kind of led me towards the college path was late in high school, when I first started experimenting with creating music, was through marching band actually. One of my hobbies was just creating marching band arrangements of pop tunes and other pieces of music that I probably wasn't allowed to arrange. But I did it anyway. I had a MuseScore account, and then I just started creating arrangements of my favorite songs, and then I gave it to my friends to play, and even my band director played some of those songs on the stands during the Friday night football games. And just being able to hear music that I arranged myself and being played live by real musicians was the most transformative thing for me when I was that age. And it kind of solidified that this is a sort of magical thing that composers and arrangers have, is the ability to create sounds from the notes that they put on paper. So I knew I wanted to explore this more, so I started creating my own original compositions for my school band, my concert band. And they weren't the greatest renditions, and to be fair, the way I wrote it, I was misinformed about orchestration and things like this because I was never taught. But it was just fun to experiment and create pieces of music that I thought were exciting. A lot of them mimic the film score sound, like the music of John Williams and John Powell and all of that. So they were very fantastical and adventurous and majestic and fanfare, and that's sort of began my journey as a self-proclaimed composer. So in my high school career, this was like my junior year, so third year in high school, that's when my band director really championed me to become a composer. And so I started applying to competitions with my music. I started improving. I took an AP music theory class, which was the only theory background that I've ever had in high school, which is quite a shame. But I started to improve and just consistently start to have fun and tinker around in music notation software. One thing led to another until my senior year, where I was kind of looking at colleges and different programs. I was debating between a computer science degree, because that's kind of what I was interested in with programming, but also the music stuff to see if that was something that I had any interest in. So some college visits came, and by fall I was interested in a certain school that had a fantastic music composition teacher. I knew that's the career I wanted to go into. So I started preparing for auditions. Now, music school auditions are actually more important than you think, and it's kind of scary to think about because that's all you think of when you're auditioning and going into school. But even though if you're a composer, a lot of schools require an instrumental or vocal audition to get into the school and to gain a scholarship package. So I didn't have any private lesson instruction in high school, so I was doing this whole process on my own, which is probably the greatest deficit in my college career, is not having a solid plan on how to audition and what repertoire to choose. And so that was probably the part that I wish I would have fixed if I could go back in a time machine, was to focus more on that. I play piano and I didn't really have a varied repertoire. They were very common classical piano pieces that anyone could recognize, and I wasn't very proficient, so when I did mess up, it was pretty obvious, and I didn't really have an idea of what I was doing. So I auditioned with that repertoire, and I got into most of the schools that I applied to. Some I did not get into because I loved the audition completely. Really, even if you are a composer and part of your audition requirements is to perform on your primary instrument, make sure you actually spend a good amount of time choosing good repertoire that is not too difficult for you, that you can play through very successfully, that you have a good musical idea of what that piece is like, and practice performing all the time. And if you have the privilege of having guidance from a private teacher, that is all the more better for you. Some things I didn't know what to expect going into my first year was coursework. So even though coursework is available on online websites for these schools, most first and second year music students will have to take music theory classes, music history, ear training, keyboarding skills, and those sort of primary music classes that will kind of set a foundation for you for the rest of your studies. Now, my music theory experience in high school and just keyboarding abilities in general were really helpful. A lot of my peers who didn't have that background really had to start from the beginning and kind of learn all these fundamentals in college, while I sort of had a previous foundation that helped me succeed a lot more. So if you have the ability to improve those two things going into your music school first year, then I think that would be very helpful for you. An interesting thing that most people don't have to experience in their first year is a global pandemic that really threw a wrench in my studies. And even though I was on campus full time, a lot of the experiences of being in college were hindered and very different than like they normally were. So I don't recommend going to school during a pandemic, but here we are. The people that really struggled in my first year were people that didn't ask for help, and they were stubborn about getting tutoring when they really needed it. High school is a very different experience than college. Everyone wants to help you succeed while you're in there. The dynamics are completely different. And you're spending a lot more money, of course, to be in those classes. So if you are struggling, then asking for help is the easiest thing you can do, and there's no judgment behind it. Professors have office hours, and they're paid, and they have that job to help you. So don't forget to ask for help if you really need it. I think after those first 2 years, then music school becomes a lot more fun as you get to do all these more in-depth and granular classes. And of course, if you're going to a larger university with a music school in it, like I did, and you'll have to take a lot of gen ed classes, which suck, but it is what it is. On top of all those classes, you most often have to be involved in an ensemble of some kind. So for me, that was being involved with the wind ensemble, as well as the choirs, which I started doing in college, but I had a lot of fun doing that. On top of that, I was part of percussion ensemble for a semester. On top of that, there was an athletic band that I was involved in, playing electric bass just for fun. So getting involved in as many ensembles as you can informs your writing style immensely as a composer, and even if you're not a composer, you should probably be part of an ensemble. So what I did in music school to excel beyond doing the bare minimum involved a few factors. Mainly when I was in school, I tried to develop a lot of professional skills while I was a student. And I know that's kind of vague to describe being a professional, but I didn't really picture myself as just a student. I valued myself and my time with that as a professional working composer. Some of these included seeking opportunities that were outside of my school. This included composing competitions, residencies, workshops, conferences, things that weren't required of me to get my degree, but I sought outside to build a broader network of musicians and people that would eventually hire me while I was in the real world. This also included building online social media channels and building somewhat of an online brand of my music while I was in school, so I could gain a sort of audience and following, especially through this YouTube channel, which has been immensely helpful in my professional development actually, and gaining great contacts throughout the country and even the world. For composers, conferences like your state music education festivals and the Midwest Clinic in Chicago is one of the most important networking opportunities that you can have. So even though my degree didn't require that I went to these things, those were imperative to my professional development. And of course, while I was in school, I went above and beyond in my class assignments, in getting things done promptly and acting professional with email and interacting with professors and my peers. These things really do go a long way and really establish your credibility with the network that you have around you. And in terms of my craft and output and performance with my applied lessons in composition and piano, I really tried to go above and beyond there as well. I didn't try to suffer myself by practicing hours a day in the practice rooms, but I made sure my output was high quality and consistent, and then I didn't try to tack on too many burdens or opportunities that I couldn't handle. Learning to say no was one of the most hard things to do, but it really helped me narrow down what my priorities were. And more on that online identity and building social media channels, I created a website while I was in school, had my own domain name, of course built this YouTube channel, my blog, podcasts. I also made a YouTube channel with all of my score videos that eventually led to a publishing deal while I was in school my junior year. And if you want to learn more about that, you can check out my recent video on making score videos up here. And of course, one of the most important things that helped me excel while I was in my undergraduate studies was having an advocate or a mentor of some kind. And that person for me was my applied composition teacher, who really took me under her wing during my studies and believed in me and pushed me and told me when I was slacking and tried to get me to the next level, while all the while being encouraging. And this is one of the most important contacts that I have made, and one of the most valuable things that I took from my entire 4-year studies there. So just having someone that really advocates and believes in you and your work has, I think, I don't know if I could have done this whole thing without her help. So find that person for you, and I couldn't recommend that enough. Now, some of the unexpected benefits while I was in music school, these are experiences that you won't really know going into your first year, but once you come out, music school becomes a much more valuable proposition for you to invest in. I talked about this several times, but it's this vast network of musicians, peers, patrons that you develop while you're in school. This is probably the best value proposition for being in school, is having this network that you build. A degree in music is pretty much a piece of paper, and there's not much you can do with it. At least for me, I can't really get a job with my degree. It's the network that I build, and these are the people that you meet in ensembles, the teachers, the professors. People that commission you are people that you know and trust and have that connection with through your school. I'm pretty sure every single commission and valuable opportunity that I've had as a composer up to this point has been from people that I know. And the easiest and most frictionless method of building a network is being in a music school. And being a person that people like to be around is probably the easiest way to build that network. You have to go outside of your comfort zone if you're an introvert. You have to be grateful for the opportunities that people give you. It's just about being a good person to build that network. And building a professional mindset about being a working musician is another benefit that I got in school. Always being prompt, being grateful for opportunities, being organized with your projects. These are all things that you develop while you're in school as you build this network and get work while you're studying. One of the best things for composers are performance opportunities of your work, especially with larger ensembles. Sure, it's possible to get chamber or solo recordings of your work if you're not in school, but usually in the composition programs you have live reading sessions of your music, and if you're lucky enough you can get your music programmed for full concerts with your school symphony or band or choir. And I've had my compositions read by every major ensemble on campus, and I couldn't have gotten that opportunity simply by applying to competitions. It might be possible, but it's not realistic. And I didn't have to pay extra for those rehearsals or anything. It's just built into the program. You can use those live recordings to use on your website or for selling your music on a catalog. By working with ensembles constantly and live musicians, you can improve your orchestration skills and writing idiomatically for instruments. And of course, the increased output of your music along with the quality, those things kind of just go hand in hand while you're having the opportunity to constantly improve your craft. And of course, outside of the music part of this, being part of college is just a really formative experience for you as a human being and as a developing adult. I experienced the most personal growth in the last 4 years than the entirety of my life beforehand, which is not that long. By choosing to go to music school, you're embracing the college experience. You're building these lasting friendships that will continue on for a lifetime. You learn adult skills, you learn independent living, budgeting, all these important adult skills that you don't really experience in high school. It kind of just develops this safe shelter of a place to learn to fail and to get better at becoming an adult in the real world. It also develops a lot of tough skin, especially if you have to work part-time during studies, which is what I had to do. Going to bed at a reasonable time, learning how to cook and get groceries. Music school was the best choice for me for the following reasons. While I was studying, I was as diligent as I was with my studies and building those professional connections by choice. Not everyone that I was studying with, not all of my cohort of my peers were doing the things that I were doing. They were kind of just coasting and doing the bare minimum, and that didn't really lead them to any positive future that they could rely on. You have to be extremely proactive. It's not like you just pay for school and you're going to come out with all these skills. You have to do the hard work yourself still. And the best thing about school was just the opportunities that you have, that you're granted while you're here. It's not a golden ticket that automatically guarantees anything. Of course, I made lasting friendships and professional connections that are the most valuable thing that I got out of it, and continue to support me as I move on to future endeavors. And by having this extra time after graduating high school, it allowed me to discern what my future and long-term plans were going to be. I'm sure most 18-year-olds don't know what they want to do with their life, but having those 4 years to continue learning, educating themselves, and learning how to develop as an adult will inevitably lead you to develop more of a solid idea of what your future is going to be, and that really solidified that future for me. And of course, if you can help it at all, please don't go into severe student debt. Always look for more scholarship opportunities, go to a state school, stay in state if you can. All of these things will help you have a successful financial future, especially with these arts degrees. They aren't intrinsically valuable. You can't really earn a six-figure income right out of the gates. And it's hard to find teaching jobs, especially at the collegiate level, if you don't have a lot of experience. It's really hard to pay back that investment if you take out a ton of loans, which is what I did. So buy me a coffee down below, please. And even though I was uncertain about the future and not sure if this was going to be right for me, I'm glad I took the risk and came out knowing that this was the best decision that I had ever made in my life, even though terrifying and there's still a long road ahead. So if you are on the edge and you think you have what it takes to succeed and you have the self-discipline and perseverance to go through this experience and you're passionate about this field, then I think the answer is pretty clear. And I wouldn't trade the last 4 years of my experience for anything, really. If you thought this video was helpful for you, then I'm going to link my video to my 5 practical tips for beginning composers if you're just starting out, things that will help you level up above your skill level and continue that trajectory towards this mythical professional composer thing that I always talk about. Anyways, thank you so much for watching and keep writing.